A new Texas law went into effect, and y'all know I'm here for it. Texas has a new law, SB 942. A father will be responsible for paying retroactive child support starting from the date of conception. This bill seeks to ensure both parents contribute to the financial responsibility of pregnancy, including medical expenses. The topic has sparked passionate responses from both legal experts and community members. With child support in the state of Texas, it only looks at one parent's income as the one paying support.
Okay. What do y'all think about that?
This is ridiculous.
What is Texas still doing?
I just want to know, are they going to be like auditing both parents to make sure that from the point of conception that they're both making financial contributions to the child? Because I don't.
For clarity, is this a mandatory thing? I didn't hear her say it. Was it a mandatory thing that they're putting on?
Coming into discussions. I think it's dumb, honestly. I'm just going to be honest. Like, how are you going to charge? Like, how are they going to prove that person's the daddy?
I was going to say that. I think that if they're worried about, I don't think that it should be retroactive until the date, like from the date of conception. I think that it should be from the moment that paternity is established, because it just doesn't make, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me. And I was just talking to someone about this a few days ago. In Florida, there's such thing as pregnancy Medicaid. So a lot of the expenses that are covered or that are incurred over the pregnancy period, everyone is eligible for pregnancy Medicaid in Florida. So I don't know what it is in Texas, but from the date of conception, it's a little extreme, even for me, like being pro-life and all that. I think it should be from the moment that paternity is established, which you can do that while the baby is still in utero or when the baby is born. So, yeah.
This is why I always say marry before you carry. You marry before you carry, you don't got to really worry about this as much.
Yes, you do. The women be cheating and trifling too. And the married men, the husbands be signing.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the women.
Fellas gonna have to pay more attention to who they laying down with at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Do you think this is gonna help men pay attention more to who they're sleeping with?
Yeah, men need to just.
I don't think it's gonna.
Because at this point, they gonna get tricked out their position for real. This is gonna.
I did just read it though. It says that paternity would have to be established for the retroactive child support payments to start. So they're not doing this ideally to men who aren't the father. This is supposed to be paternity is established. Okay, now that we know you're the dad, from the moment that y'all got pregnant, whatever date that was, now you need to start contributing to that. But again, there, like Jerry said, like there's programs and things, so I don't really know like what kind of is the equal on her contributing and him contributing, or is this just supposed to be a punishment because you're not married, and you need to do something and be held accountable? So this is like their way of like holding them accountable because they're, having to establish paternity before establishing this, retroactive idea. So it just, I don't know. It sounds like they're trying to find like legal ways to punish men.
Right.
Or like, try to like marry them without, having them be married. Like there's always still some type of, permanent type of tie that seems to be put on him. But I don't know, again, like what's the parameters on her having to contribute to her own child and her own, pre and postnatal care.
Well, I mean, by default, the person that you sleep with is the person that you essentially marry. Like that was originally what marriage was. Marriage was because you defiled a woman or because she slept with you, then that was essentially either your wife or your concubine, which is one of the reasons why we branded women in society way back when as promiscuous or whores or whatever it is that you want to label them as. That was the reason why we branded them, is because they were like, a person with no home. And so one of the things is, before I deep dive into this whole child support issue, is what guys and what people don't understand and what women don't understand is that the person that you lay down with no matter how you frame it, that's way more impactful than the person that you marry. People, we get caught up in the relationship aspect of it, but we don't really take into consideration that the person that you have a child with is going to be a person that is tied to you. Even if you decide that you don't no longer want to associate with each other, that child is a remnant and is a direct descendant of the person that you decided to have sex with.
They don't
So
care about the kids. They
so
don't
we don't
care.
take that into consideration. A lot of times we just having sex and women are opening up their legs. And let's be clear, like again, most guys are not having children outside of wedlock. There is a small minority of men that are fucking the majority of women and they're having children with them. So even if we talking about punishing guys, most of the guys that get caught up getting punished are the guys that's ultimately getting a whole lot of women pregnant. Now, the flip side of it is also tied to the my body, my choice situation, in which Texas obviously is a red state, which also voted to not abort their children. And so, as a result, a direct result of that, aside from the whole court system, is making sure that people take ownership and accountability for who it is that they had sex with, all the way up until all the way for the birth of the child, the conception of the child, all the way up into the birth, because of the prenatal care and all of this other type of stuff that's costing, and a lot of this healthcare. It also is associated with the social services, which is one of the reasons why we need to be more accountable with who it is that we lay down with. So that's just giving y'all some extra insight into what is happening with these laws, which I don't believe that it's fully passed yet, but it is something that is working its way through the courts over in Texas.
I think
I think
legislative
that it's time for women to take a look in the mirror, because we constantly are having the same conversation about male accountability, which of course I'm all for men taking accountability for their children, but also there are two people having sex every single time, but we still have this repetitive thing about male accountability, and it's not coming to, there's no solution in place because we're not holding both parties accountable properly. I think that I am very frustrated at this point with even younger women, because the more I talk to women, it just gets worse and worse and worse as the generations progress. Even, of course, I'm included in that generation, and you start to talk about young marriage, or you start to talk about sticking with the person that you decide to have kids with, and it's always met with contentment. It's always met with a scoff, because it's just kind of like, why do I have to be responsible for the actions that I commit? And at this point, it's just like, we need some chastity belts or something. Women have sex too much, and nobody wants to say that, because sexual liberation is something that's supposed to be applauded. But at this point, it's sick, because you are more sexual than a person. And I don't really subscribe to like, oh, we have testosterone, so we want to have sex more. I understand there's a biological aspect there, but even if we talk about the nature of men and how they do, want to sow their wild oats, whatever the case may be, you want to have sex more than a man, and you're more cutthroat with it than a man, and then you end up with the baby because you've conceived this child, but then don't want to be held responsible for the outcome. It's just, we're in a confusing time.
I think some of these women want to move like men. They want to move like men, or make excuses why can't they. And it's just, I'm surprised Texas would pass some bullshit like this. Like, can we find something else that would be more conducive? Like, how about we take away DNA must be tested prior for child support? Like, making this something, this is crazy. Now imagine the women that's going to be falsifying, yeah, this is my baby daddy, and he's really not your baby daddy. Like, so what's going to happen if you find out he's not? Are they going to repay the money to the guy? So I think I don't see this passing in Texas, but I hope not. I don't know. With today's times, you don't know what might come about just in general.
Well, from my understanding, Cameron, didn't you say that like in order to get the retroactive child support, paternity had to be established in the state of Texas?
That's what it says.
I don't know. I think, in my honest opinion, I like the idea of retroactive child support, just because I think it really protects men as well. If they establish paternity and you're the dad, you got to take care of your kids. It's not the burden of the taxpayer to take care of that stuff. And then you also have in some cases where men don't sign themselves up for child support, the woman actually comes back and tries to get what they call child support arrears.
Well, Brandon, the question for me,
Yeah,
the
arrears.
question that I always have in this conversation is we get to this point prior to having the conversation about marrying before you have children. Like, it's just, why is that just over? And I know this conversation is about child support, so I'm not negating what you're saying, but I'm saying we jump to this child support conversation and it's this confusing what's right and what's wrong, but nobody wants to talk about why are y'all having children with people you don't want to be with? Why? And why do we keep doing it? I feel like there's legal action that needs to happen after this. When you have kids and you don't want to take care of your kids and you don't want to take responsibility, people need to start going to jail. That's how I feel. Because
Well,
if you don't want to be held accountable, then this is 100% preventable.
Well, they do go to jail if they don't
Now,
pay,
in that
right?
regard, though, like,
Men
what
do.
if they?
I mean, I don't know how many. It's a low percentage of women who get on child support. So, but women are carrying the baby. Women are ultimately deciding to keep the children, which is their right. But then men are gonna, majority of the time, men are gonna be the ones who are paying that penalty. So.
I mean,
But
I
did you
genuinely,
say you think if they're not present that they should go to jail?
No,
Or
I think that if you are a woman who is going to subscribe to, I wasn't ready, I was young and dumb, and you don't want to take responsibility, I think that repercussions should be as prominent, however they decide to see fit. It should be as prominent for women as it is for men, because all men know that there is a repercussion for not taking care of your children, for not paying your child support. This is common amongst all of our society. But with women, it's this gray area that's ridiculous because you were there too. You laid down, you opened your legs, and you decided, I'm going to keep this baby, I'm going to board this baby, I'm going to have this baby. And then if you don't, and then I'm going to use this baby as ammunition against the person that I decided to procreate with. And then when a person says, well, why you just don't be with your baby daddy? F that dude. You know what I'm saying? F him. I'm not doing that. But you slept with him.
If anything, there needs to be a law.
A
that
law.
goes-
That's what I'm
that-
saying.
Yeah, if you decide to have a baby out of wedlock, you are lawfully married to that person. At the end of the day, that's what it
Yes.
should be. At the end of the
That
day,
sounds
yeah.
amazing.
So therefore, it's going to hold both parties accountable. So therefore, now
all
you're
right,
looking at it
hold
from
on,
a different
Courtney.
perspective.
That's
What's up?
crazy.
So here's the only problem with that, right? Because in the United States, polygamy is illegal, right? And we
Right.
already established that it's a minority of men that are having babies with the majority of women. So what, men just gonna have to wipe up multiple women?
No, because at the end of the day, we can't solve what already happened. We're talking about for the future and what's coming, because you still got some young jokers out here doing what they do already. So the consequence behind that, hey, lawfully, if you decide to lay down with said person and y'all have a baby, lawfully you are married. That's what it should be. So therefore, now you are, because now with the way that a lot of women are dating today, hot girl summers and things like that. Now it holds them accountable as well, even more accountable for that aspect. So that's how I look at it.
No, I don't see that happening.
I think we're
I don't either.
missing the whole point of all of this. And to me, the whole point of this is because y'all are still talking about the man and the woman, right?
Hmm?
But the whole point of this is I think most people as adults, y'all don't care enough about the children. And that's y'all's problem. It's all about the man, the woman, her accountability, his accountability, her accountability, his accountability. But y'all don't give excuse my language, two fucks about the children and what they're going through. And to me, that is the most important. I don't care what you did as a grown man, and I don't care what you did as a grown woman. At the end of the day, that child did not ask to be here. So y'all both need to make sure that that child is taken care of. That's the problem. No one is taking care of these children, and they're neglecting the children because they're like, my feelings matter. My feelings matter. I don't care if it's man or woman. Y'all don't care enough about the children, and that's y'all's problem.
That's what I'm saying. I'm kind of on that same. I'm kind of on that same point. That's why I say that lawfully that should happen. That should be a law where if both decide to lay down, now you're going to be more conscious of who you decide to lay down with in that
And I also think that there needs to be a cutback in the assistance there, because if I always feel that I have a security blanket, if I have children, I get incentives. And it's not for the women who, I don't think that the women who actually need it are the ones that are utilizing it. I think that there is an abundance of women who are taking advantage of the things that are supplied. And when they're doing that, it's their plan B, almost plan A at that point. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't really want to be with old dude. I don't really want to have a baby with him. I don't believe in abortion. So now we have a contradiction. I don't want to, I'm going to raise this child basically by myself. And I know that for 9 months. And then I don't really have the income to support this child on my own. So now we have a huge nuance here, but then I'm going to utilize our government systems, our tax-paying dollars to fund the well-being of my child. And that's the plan.
And so in that regard, I guess that's why it's like, what if they just completely took it away? Like, what if there was no child support for unwed couples? Like, do you think maybe that would be a solution? Because it seems like, again, the women are using it kind of like, like you said, an incentive, or like plan A, or this is what I'm going to do to supplement. And this is how they, even, they talk about having multiple baby daddies so they can get more money and more assistance. So what if the parameters were you don't get assistance if you're not married?
I don't think that's gonna happen. But
No.
do you?
Well, I mean,
yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen. But I'm thinking now, right? Do you think that
I don't think it matters.
This whole, it doesn't matter. The child support.
I don't think it matters. Like a lot of the people that's having the majority of the kids, they dusty. And so they're not really getting shit like that anyway, even if they can find a father. Like, I don't think it matters. I just think that we oversexed, overcrazed. Nobody is using rubbers anymore. Honestly, like rubbers ain't even a thing.
Not at all.
Niggas is talking about just taking
It's
prep.
so weird.
They just talking about just taking prep, and they not even caring. Nobody give a fuck no more. People just fucking.
And for what though? Because I think that's a correlation to how miserable we are as a society. We're just having sex for what? For fun?
Because we got to get a nut off, and the women want to get their rocks off.
So
right,
I
understand.
think
But
that
why is it so predominant now? But maybe people were more highly married in the past, and that's why it wasn't as spoke about. Because now it just seems like it's like the number one thing to do. With random people,
but again, I think y'all ignoring a lot of the cultural norms. Porn is out of control. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's in the music, it's on the TVs, it's on anything. Dog, back in the days, like you had to do the walk of shame, and you had to kind of like get your gumption up to go to the video store and go to that back room that you knew niggas was watching you going into the back room going into. Like, it's no barriers to entry. Everything is a free-for-all.